Halli Casser-Jayne, and welcome to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show, a smart, witty, and timely podcast brought to you at a time when Americans are getting fed up with all the shouting and bickering in Washington, D.C. So I, Halli Casser-Jayne, and veteran White House correspondent Matthew Cooper are here to offer you an insightful, engaging journey into the world of politics, always with a smile and dialogue that snaps, crackles, and pops, and with our very special guests. Whether mulling over Melania Trump's latest fashion or Donald Trump's declining poll numbers, we strive to offer a different take on all things politics in our weekly conversations. So, pour yourselves a martini, grab a spot on your favorite sofa, and have a listen as we tackle it all and like to stir and sometimes shake things up. On this episode of the Halli Casser-Jayne Show, we begin with our weekly conversation and our take on this week's political news. In the second half hour, stay tuned for my interview with Congresswoman Jackie Speier. And oh, what a conversation we have. The author of the honest, raw, heartbreaking, sometimes funny, hope-filled new book, Undaunted, Surviving Jonestown, Summoning Courage, and Fighting Back, Congresswoman Speier is both inspiring and indomitable. Welcome to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show, and we're just beginning. Here we go.
I am so shocked by what happened this week, Matt.
That just shows you I don't even know what you're talking about. It's like what? I just don't even know where to start. What shocked you this week?
I mean, I thought, this is like we're getting into 2020, but we're like not exactly there. And, it's like, everybody is like getting into it maybe a little bit too early, yada, yada, yada. I didn't think it would go as low as it went this week already. And that the way that it would go low would be with Darling Joe. I am telling you, this one, we are in for a very bad couple of years because this is how it's starting. This Joe Biden thing, this Lucy Flores, right, comes in and she's, she accuses of him not of sexual assault. And she, there she goes. I watched interviews with this woman and I was just horrified because you could see how practiced she was to every question everybody was going to ask. And she had all the wonderful right answers. And it was just a little bit too pat for my take.
So your take, I just want to be sure I know where you're going with this. So you're saying she did this to sabotage his campaign, or?
Absolutely. I absolutely.
On behalf of another candidate, or?
Yes. I think she was working for Bernie Sanders.
Didn't she quit Bernie?
I don't that it was a quit thing. I mean, she was at other places. I think it isn't that she's so much a Bernie supporter at this point because she was at Betta's thing a couple of days ago. But I do believe that this had to do with that left wing. We are not going to have a moderate, and we're going to go to the left wing. I mean, she's out of that thing. I absolutely. First of all, I thought it was just bizarre, and the whole thing was just so orchestrated. It made me ill as far as I was concerned. And the other thing is that I wanted to talk to you about, because as a man, my good friend, isn't this starting to get a little scary to you?
Oh, because I might be accused of some untoward act?
All you have to do is to look at somebody and that's enough.
Well, I'm very prim. I try to avert my eyes.
But all you have to do is to brush by somebody, put your arm and say, "Oh, Halli, I feel so badly." You don't know what somebody's going to do with that. This is out of control. I'm a woman and I'm saying this is out of control.
Oh, I hear you. I know a lot of women who feel the way you do. And, well, look, I mean, it's clear that the sort of, the kind of handsy style of older Paul, like Joe, is just not, just not favored anymore. It's just it runs too many risks of people being, either if they're offended or if it gives them license to be offended, if they're not offended, if you know what I mean. So I hear what you're saying, but I think it's just, it points to another problem. Is Joe Biden, if he runs, is it just going to be all apologies and, oh, I'm sorry about this, I'm sorry about that?
So you don't share my opinion that this was a political hit job?
I think he has to move into exile. I think he should go to an island somewhere and repent. I think he should be brought up on charges, frankly.
Oh, God.
No,
you are such a pistol. Oh my God! This. I'm sorry, sweetie. This one just really, really, really irritated me.
Yep.
And then you see you see what happens with all of this, and then the pile-on. First of all, the guy hasn't even declared he's running yet.
Right.
That's why I actually think it was a hit job. They want to get him before they can.
It could be a hit. I mean, I don't know. I mean, certainly her recounting what happened sounds totally plausible. It's what he does. I mean, it does it on camera. It's not really it's not unlike him.
Well, this is a woman who has a huge political career.
Huh?
That also.
Well, there's something. I mean, there's no question. She's in politics, and so you got to be suspicious. I'm not as certain as you are that it's a hit job, but okay, it could be. Either way, the question is, why does something like this stick? I mean, why does it merit like 8 New York Times articles?
Why? Because Me Too.
Yeah.
Why? Because there are a lot of very angry women out there, rightfully so to some degree. Right. It sells newspapers. I mean, I hate to say it, but it does.
I don't think it's a big traffic driver, actually.
I disagree with that. I think that it's very much. I've never seen women so engaged as they were last night on Facebook and Twitter. I mean, the women were just going wacky from this. And if you watched, I actually watched MSNBC, Nicole Wallace's show right after the story broke. And Heidi Grisbola was on it, and I can't remember the names of the other two, both of them very left-wing Democrats. And poor A.B. Stoddard was in the middle of that. And she was poor A.B. not only because she was older than the young things that were discussing it, she was also, she's a Republican, I would say, right? Or at least, leans that way. And so it was the most absurd conversation I've ever seen. These young women, Heidi, I don't think she was comfortable, but I actually sent a letter to Nicole saying, you did a disservice here because you didn't have women from different generations there to discuss this, and this is generational on such a large degree. Because if you talk to women, my age, and our age, you get one point of view, and if you talk to the young people, you get something else. And so I think that plays into it too. But in the middle of all of this is poor Joe Biden. He's not perfect. He's had a very long and storied career in politics, and all of it's not good. But he's not even in the race, and people are beating the crap out of him, and it's annoying me. It's annoying me because I think that the sexual charges, or whatever she called them, she said they. So what's the point if they weren't sexual assault? Because the other thing that I said, Matt, I said this may say more about her. Suppose this is a woman who just is frigid and doesn't like any man touching her.
Well, I don't know anything about that. But look, I mean, Joe Biden's a man of a certain era, and some of those things that he did that were just like perfectly comfortable, it's hard for politicians and others to do now. It's just it doesn't make him bad, but it does mean he's got to learn new steps if he gets into this thing, and that's where we're at.
Well, I guess the other part of it is I heard this afternoon that they were actually, the Republicans were already putting together a creepy Joe tape, and here we go.
Oh, well, they've already done stuff
right.
Like that. Yeah, I mean, that's true. And look, Elizabeth Warren was all over him.
Oh, I know. Nancy and a few of the others were ladies about it, and
the old school one.
Right. Well, Elizabeth Warren's no spring chicken. She should have known better, but she took advantage of it. But hey, that takes us to our next, because we could stay and talk about this for the next 40 years. Because I'm happy to do it.
You're loaded.
I am loaded because this one upset me more than a whole lot of things have upset me in a long time.
I think there's going to be a lot of this stuff.
I do want to mention one thing, that is Mike Bloomberg didn't waste 2 seconds by letting everybody know that he's in if Biden is out. That happened this afternoon.
Yeah, that was classy.
Yes.
But there's a guy who's had authentic harassment complaints. So I mean,
oh God, there's not a classy one in the joint. But that being said, let's move on. Let's move on to the candidates and the fact that they were putting out the kind of money that they had raised in the last month or so. And Bernie came in at what, 18 mil?
Bernie was 18, yeah.
Kamala came in at 12. Mayor Pete, got to give it to him. Buttigieg, right? Buttigieg. I love that name.
Buttigieg.
7 million. And Elizabeth Warren, and this is why I brought this up now, because she's not my favorite person at the moment, if ever she was. She must not have raised a whole lot of money because she said that they met their goals, but she wouldn't release the figures.
Yeah.
It's just not looking good for Miss Elizabeth Warren.
No, there's not the massive groundswell for Ms. Warren. But we got a long way to go here.
Anyway, so Elizabeth Warren didn't get her the haul that the rest of them did. But this Mr. Pete, you got to give him credit. He's rising fast. I'm afraid he's rising a little too soon.
Yeah, he's obviously doing much better than people thought, and he's an attractive guy, and he's doing okay. And we'll see if that keeps up. Long haul. Don't really write off too many yet.
No, I won't. I have to say though, I'm surprised at how well quietly, because she's not in the front of the picture at the moment. Kamala is. You got to give her credit. She's making strides, and she's doing it quietly, without making a whole lot of noise about it.
Yeah, well, she had a great opening weekend, and she's kept her head down through the Beto surge and the Buttigieg, and
oh, you're just showing off. Say it again. Say his name again. Buttigieg. You practiced that before we did the recording.
I did.
I'm kidding. So is there anything else that we want to say about the obscene halls and what's going on with all of these folks, or is it time to move on? Because we don't have a lot of time this week.
Well, I'll just say that I think there's some stocks that are undervalued right now, just for the market. I'd hold Bernie and Kamala. I might sell Buttigieg. He might be peaking. And I'd probably buy some Warren and Booker. I think they're struggling a bit right now, but I think they have some surge potential.
But there's one you're not naming.
Oh, Beto? Biden?
No. Female.
Klobuchar?
Yeah.
Well, that's true, but I don't know. I'm mixed. I like her a lot, and I think the mean Amy thing is kind of overwrought. But all right, I'd buy Klobuchar. I'd buy 100 shares of Klobuchar.
I think Klobuchar. I like her.
Yeah.
I like her. Her 2 feet are on the ground. She's not. She's not bouncing all over the place.
And her comb is in the salad. Yeah.
I want to see her move up the ladder, because I think she's very presidential in the old school.
Yeah, well, she's not flaky. She's grounded.
Right. And isn't that lovely? Isn't that just lovely? Because I'm so sick of flaky, particularly with Mr. Flake. We'll talk about him in a minute. I want to move on to the border crisis. That isn't a crisis, but it's being called a crisis because Trump likes a crisis. Also notice the crisis that isn't a crisis, played by like a crisis, reality TV 101. I mean, this is a disgrace. I don't understand how Republicans are letting this guy gin this up the way he is and play it the way he is. If he ever were to close the border, Matt, there are a number of things that one could say about that. One of them, the most, of course, obvious, is the financial. It would be a nightmare, worse than the shutdown. That being said, there are lives at stake in countries like Salvador, which of course my heart is in Salvador, having spent so much time there as a reporter. Nicaragua and Honduras, and this is. And by the way, there's a word I want to ask you if you've heard it in a while. Can I ask you what that word is? Can I tell you what that word is? Wall. Wall.
Wall. Yes.
This is all about the wall, except nobody's talking about the wall.
Right. Well, he doesn't have any wall. Yeah, exactly.
So he's got this nonsense, and I'm just wondering, are you as horrified by this nonsense as I am?
I should be more horrified. I don't think he's going to do it. Well, I don't think he's going to seal the border, close trade between Mexico and the United States. Can he cut aid to those countries? Yes, and that's bad. So yes, it's.
He's playing with fire here.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know if the few $100 billion we give those countries makes a huge difference in their functioning or not, but it doesn't help them to have us cut off the spigot. So yeah, it could prove devastating. It could prove devastating. That's how bad it could be, because that's what they rely on for getting food to the poor and medicine to the poor and everything else. Because we don't understand the kind of poverty that is in places like Salvador. They're very, very rich people, and the poverty is like nothing we can even begin to understand. The whole infrastructure is paid for by the United States, by the way. Right.
So it would prove to be very devastating, and even on the American side, it's devastating. How about all those companies on the border who rely on cars coming in, and parts coming in? And
well, I don't think they're going to. There's no way to shut down trade between the U.S. and Mexico. I just don't see that happening. But he can definitely cut the aid to Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador.
Anyway, it's sick and it's sad and it's pitiful. But we will move on to the clearance probe, which is turning out to be kind of interesting. 25 people.
Yeah.
A whistleblower?
A whistleblower, right, with a form of dwarfism.
I mean, Sarah Sanders says Democrats are playing a dangerous game by investigating Jared Kushner's security clearance. What the hell is all of this about? This is kind of weird, right?
Yeah, I mean, the people objecting to Jared's security clearance were, White House Chief of Staff Kelly, and I think the White House counsel, Don McGahn. So, I mean, it's not Democrats. There were people in the White House, at the top of the White House, who thought he shouldn't have a security clearance and did not like seeing the president circumvent the process. So, Sarah Sanders is full of it. But, this is part of Democrats taking over the House is a big deal. All this comes to light in a way it just wouldn't have otherwise.
What do you think is really going on with this clearance thing? Seriously, I mean, is this serious?
I think it's serious. I mean, clearly the White House circumvented the usual procedures for how people get security clearances, and doesn't seem to be illegal at all. I mean, the president has the authority to grant these clearances unilaterally and circumvent the process, but you never really hear about other presidents doing this. And so it's, I mean, it's a perfectly appropriate thing for the Democrats in the House to look into, and I think they've got a very compelling figure with this blower. So he's back on the job. So it's kind of amazing.
Some of the names are kind of interesting who beyond Jared and Ivanka, and Flynn, of course. Sebastian Gorka was one he lit through. Katie McFarland.
Yes.
Hello, baby. I mean, she's got a storied career, doesn't she?
And these were people. These were not low-level people. These were people who Trump personally liked, and so they got the blessing from him because of that. And I think it's serious. I think once again, it's Trump versus the intelligence community versus the establishment. They'll say deep state, but it's him being rogue.
Well, I don't know. I think I'm naive sometimes because I know who Jared is. We know what he came from. We know how he plays. God, would it be out of stupidity or out of he truly is vile? Would he ever give state secrets to Saudi Arabia? I mean, when you think about, what we're talking about here, it makes you really think, doesn't it, about who these people really are and what personas we have of, that they put out that we have of them. This is dangerous stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is a guy who contacted the Russians about using their secret contacts.
I know that's your favorite thing. You love that.
Well, it's like,
no, your point is well taken.
It doesn't mean all these people are like traitors or something. It does mean that they, objections were raised about their clearances, and the president unilaterally overrode those concerns, and Dems are gonna probe that.
Well, good for Dems, because it's about time we had some probing. I don't know what happened. Let's talk about Dirty Barr, because that's what I think he is. So I call him Dirty Barr. I didn't see the news this afternoon. Did he? I'm sure he did not submit a report to Congress that he was supposed to have a deadline today. Did he do it? I don't think he did. No.
Yeah, no, I don't. He didn't. No, he didn't follow through on today's deadline. No, that's the deadline I gave him.
Right. So now we're going to have to wait to see how the Dems actually handle this, because it should prove very, very interesting. But a little small story did come up that I wanted to ask you about. Originally Trump wanted the Mueller, make those documents let's get it out there, sunlight. He's not saying that anymore. He's had time to think. He's a little slow on the uptake there, and he realized that there are things in there he probably doesn't want out. 2 House Republicans are demanding Democrats turn over the transcript for closed-door meetings given by former Trump fixer Michael Cohen last month. And they're the usual suspects, by the way, Jim Jordan and Mark Meadows. They're saying he committed perjury and at least 7 times, and they are seeing red. Did you know about that?
I did not know about that. I'm not surprised by that. Usually those kind of, committee staff preps before someone appears formally in public before the committee are, pretty common. They're not usually, they're not usually released, but I guess they can ask for them. I mean, if they've got proof Cohen lied, I'm sure the district attorney in New York would like to know that, because his deal is contingent on him telling the truth and allocuting and such. So, they should take it up with them.
I personally think this is a page out of Trump.
Yeah,
make the accusation and it'll stick with his people, and what the hell doesn't matter, because he's just playing this for everything it's worth, because you can see he's getting nervous as hell about what's going to be in that report when it does come out, and he knows it's going to come out sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
So I think he's just got everybody doing his bidding for him, and that's just how the guy operates. Let's move on to this. I just want to talk very briefly about him going after Obamacare and medicine, and he's backtracked now. Well, the latest statement that just cracked me up was that we're going to have big, beautiful health care reform right after the election of 2020. Yeah. So somebody overpowered him. There is important. But something came out of that was interesting, and that's Tim Kaine. And he has a new plan called Medicare X. And people should pay attention, because it's a very smart move on his part. It's Medicare that you can buy in as an extra.
Right.
And I think he just totally pulled it all away from the conversation about Medicare for all. Watch that. That's all we have to say.
Yeah, I agree with you. Smart plan.
Whatever. I note to ask Matt. How do you like this one? It was a sticky note. Ask Matt. The Department of Homeland Security has disbanded a group of intelligence analysts who focus on domestic terrorism. What did you think of that?
That didn't seem like a good idea. That seems like a bad idea, since it's like domestic terrorists are killing more people than foreign terrorists in this country.
What do you think that's about?
I don't know. They seem to have devalued the, all the work against this domestic, these lone wolves who are inspired by, white racist nationalism. So I don't know. It seems like an odd place to cut.
I thought so too. I think it's suspicious.
Yeah, I don't know. It's concerning. It's deeply concerning.
Yeah, it's the kind of stuff that I think intrigues you. That's why I put it as a note.
No.
And speaking Speaking of intriguing, a little birdie told me that your friend Valerie Plame is planning a run for the Senate.
Well, I was wondering if she would do that. I was kind of wondering when I saw that Udall was not going to run for another term. I kind of wondered, when she's been down there a pretty long time. I don't think she has a ton of money, but I think she could raise money. She got, she's well known, and it would be an intriguing thing. I mean, she's, one of the congressmen is running, and he's pretty popular, and I think the state's, almost 50% Hispanic. So, I think could be interesting race, but the more the merrier. Valerie Plame would be a pretty strong candidate. She could raise money. She has name recognition, but she's not super involved with politics down there. Very Hispanic state, and Hispanic congressman's running, and I think with 2 Anglo congressmen right now, you got to give that Congressman Lujan a big edge to take certainly the nomination, if not the seat. So she'd have to really fight for it.
Yeah, she got a lot of flack. I mean, the initial press on it was, who does she think she is?
Right. I don't think it's gonna. Yeah.
But it's interesting, and of course I had to bring that up because you're such buddies.
Yeah.
James Comey concedes he may be responsible for Trump's election. I think that was the understatement of the week.
About that. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty obnoxious on his part. But he's one of those people. I don't know how he survived, but he has survived, and he's got a voice in all of this, and I'm just intrigued by that. That's the word of the day, by the way, intrigued. Because how did he survive all of this? That's all I have to say on that part. I want to talk about Wayne LaPierre, who said something that didn't get a lot of play, and that is that he's telling everybody the NRA is going belly up. You think it is?
Well, there have been these reports for a while.
I mean, this should be a huge story, and it's not.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I don't know how they spent themselves out of all this money. I mean, they built this giant glass tower out in Virginia, and they've expanded. And they do all these TV things, and they have a gazillion members paying dues. I don't know how they screwed this up.
People stopped giving them money,
well,
and their cash outlay, Matt, is massive.
Yeah, I mean, what are they pissing away their money on? Dana Loesch TV ads. I mean,
that's it. That's a lot of it. You think that's cheap to produce? It's not. I would think that somebody like Dana Loesch would be paid to make appearances, right?
Oh yeah.
I guess she's pocketing them and not giving them to the NRA, though. That's kind of a little weird.
Oh yeah. I'm sure she's making a ton. So, well, I can't say I'm sad.
Listen, I would be thrilled. It says to me that there are a lot of people who are finally coming around to the fact that maybe they're not such a wonderful organization, right?
But I don't know if that's true. I don't know if the membership is falling or they're just overspending.
Well, probably a little bit of both.
Yeah, I don't know. But that's...
but I don't care how they go out, Matt. Let them just go out.
Right, yeah. I hear you.
Like, ta-ta, goodbye. It's been swell. Yeah. So that's like one of my pet peeves. We're going to end on this. We're going to end on Israel. The election is April 9th, and it's a very tight one for Bibi, unusually tight, although today was the first time he was ahead in the polls by a little bit. So, who knows what's going to happen. We'll discuss it in depth next week. But what I wanted to talk to you about, Matt, very quickly was, because I think it was a thought that crossed my mind, and that is the similarities between Trump and Bibi are extraordinary. They even use the same quotes to their followers right now. Have you noticed it?
Yeah, no, I've seen it. Fake news and lots of others.
Yeah, I mean, they're both going back and forth between the two. But my thought was this, and it was a crazy thought, which is, Bibi Netanyahu, whether you love his politics or you don't in terms of his how he feels about the West Bank and about Israel and everything, on that level, that's an argument certainly we could have. But this guy is a brilliant politician, and he's been in, prime minister for how many? Like 3, 4? I mean, it's ridiculous. I think the longest serving prime minister. And he's saved the hell out of that country. Whether you like the way he did it or I like the way he did it doesn't really matter. He's a survivor. I think that Trump modeled himself on Bibi. I don't think it was the other way around. And I see when you see Trump and Bibi together, it's the only time you see him truly show affection to somebody. And I just wanted to make that point that there's something there, and there's a book in that, by the way.
Yeah, well, they're definitely got a bond going. I mean, no question. You know, and Jared is going to bring Minnie's piece in, so that's going to be good. You know. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. So who are you betting on for the election?
Who am I betting on for the election? I'm betting that it's Bibi.
Probably a safe bet. I mean,
what do you think?
Well, Blue and White doing pretty well, and
yeah, I think he's two behind. I mean, it's going to wind up being a coalition, or you know, at the end anyway. It's parliamentary things.
It's always a scrap.
You know, it's very odd anyhow the way that they do it. But yeah, I think he could add at the end.
Yeah, I think Hamas is going to help Bibi. So
yeah, right. So it'll be interesting to see, and we'll talk about it in depth next week, because I do think what happens there affects here, as what happens here affects there, and I think it's important. So I just wanted to put that in there, because I think if we try and understand Trump, I think that's a piece that belongs in the puzzle of figuring out who Trump is and what he because I don't think he really loves all those guys down as well, you know, these wacko, right wingers. But I do think he has a good deal of respect for Bibi Netanyahu. Yeah, and I think that's a lot. I think he may be taking notes, has been taking notes from Netanyahu for a long time.
Well, they both have the older brothers, and
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I hadn't thought about that, but that's true. You're right. Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I do think that Netanyahu is one of the great politicians of our generation.
Well, he's clearly good at what he does. Yeah. Well, next week we'll know, right? So
we'll talk about it next week. Is there anything else anything that I missed that was on your hit parade?
No, I think we got it. So I will see you next week.
You were listening to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show. The Halli Casser-Jayne Show posts new podcasts Wednesdays, 3 p.m. Eastern at hallicasserjayne.com and is available wherever you listen to your podcasts. Be sure to find me on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, on all your favorite apps. You can find the Halli Casser-Jayne Show on your Alexa device, too. Just say the Halli Casser-Jayne Show. Oh, and come play with me on Twitter at the Halli CJ Show. Jackie Speier is the U.S. Representative for California's 14th Congressional District. She is a recognized champion of women's rights, personal privacy, and consumer safety, as well as an avowed opponent of government inefficiency and waste. In 2012, she was named to Newsweek's list of 150 fearless women in the world. In November 2017, Congresswoman Speier co-authored the Me Too Congress Act to overhaul how sexual harassment and assault are reported and mediated on Capitol Hill, and in 2018 she was named one of Politico's 50 for those efforts. Speier was first elected in 2008. Her journey to the halls of Congress, quite a story. 40 years ago, she was left for dead during the Jonestown Massacre while she was serving as a congressional legal advisor. She tells that remarkable tale in her new book, Undaunted. Speier's story is one of personal struggle, as a widow, as a mother, as an outspoken victim of gun violence, and service with an unwavering dedication to her constituents. Despite ongoing health struggles stemming from the shooting and personal tragedies, including the loss of her husband while she was pregnant with her second child, Undaunted, Speier continued to blaze an unparalleled path in regional and national politics. We begin our conversation talking about Jonestown. A little background. In November 1978, the 28-year-old Jackie Speier, a congressional legal advisor, was part of the fateful delegation to investigate cult leader Jim Jones in the People's Temple in Jonestown, Guyana. While helping victims to escape, the delegation was ambushed on the tarmac, and Speier was shot 5 times at point-blank range. Her injuries were near fatal, and after 22 hours in a cargo hold, she was miraculously rescued and brought home to the United States to embark on a long and harrowing recovery. 5 people died, including Congressman Ryan. 900 in the cult, including some 300 aged 17 and under, succumbed to a mass suicide, making the incident one of the largest mass deaths in American history. When in 2008 she was elected to Congress, she filled the seat of longtime mentor Leah Ryan, who was killed that day in Jonestown. Let's talk with Congresswoman Jackie Speier. Hello?
Hello.
There you are. Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
Are you having fun?
Yeah, I'm having fun because you're my second to last interview for the day.
I hear you, darling. Truly, I do. Absolutely. Anyway, so nice to have you here, Congresswoman. Before we start, I have to tell you something interesting, which is our paths have crossed in an odd way. One of my very, very dearest friends was at Jonestown, a producer. I asked him if I could use his name. He said, I'd rather not. But I went through it with him and in that way, in spirit with you. What an odd thing to have the chance now to talk to you about all of that, and all the positive that's actually come out of that. Thank you for sharing. This is a remarkable book on Undaunted. I want to say this to you.
Oh, thank you.
It's honest. It's raw.
How is your producer doing? Is he?
He still has flashbacks.
You know, it's.
How about you?
Really has. Well, I don't have flashbacks, but it can't not impact your life. And those that were part of Jonestown, he had beaten them up emotionally and physically, and so it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, it's really been a long journey to watch this with him, and a lot of the people who are around that world besides. But I want to talk to you about this wonderful book, Undaunted, and I want to say to you that it's honest, it's raw, it's heartbreaking, it's inspiring, it's eye-opening, Congresswoman, funny, hopeful, and spiritual. That's where I want to go with you first because, and I want to read something that you said. With the hindsight of 40 years, I see that my baptism by gunfire guided me into the life I was meant to live, one of public service, one that would ignite the courage to make my voice heard, and one that would carry with it a visceral appreciation for each new day. You know, it's often in life the worst packaging that gives us life's most remarkable gifts. Can you talk to me about that? I know you know that lesson.
Well, it's really true. It is the setbacks, it's the failures in our lives that truly empower us, truly educate us about how we have to fashion our path forward. And it has worked for me over and over again. I love to tell young people in particular that you are looking at a 3-time loser. This is what a 3-time loser looks like. And they look at me kind of shocked. But the truth is I lost for student body president in high school. I lost the first time I ran for Congress, and I lost for lieutenant governor of California. And yet each of those defeats presented to me an opportunity to succeed.
Talk to me about that. How did you process that so that became, I think that's where the lesson is for all of us that you can teach us. You know, some of us would just become the victims, right?
Right. Well, you know, I had that choice. I mean, I remember after I had recovered from all of my gunshot wounds in Guyana, I was hospitalized for 2 months. At one point, they thought they were going to have to amputate my leg and or my arm. But once I came out of there, I spent the weekend, my first weekend at home, and I realized for the first time I wasn't in pain. Now, it wasn't that I wasn't in pain. I just wasn't thinking about the pain because I was other-directed. And it was that weekend that made me decide that I was going to run for the unexpired term of Congressman Ryan. On the very last day that you could take out papers, that Monday, I went to the county courthouse. My arm is still in a contraption because I couldn't use my fingers, and I signed my name to run for Congress. And it was a ill-fated 6-week campaign, but it taught me so much.
There's also the story of what happened in Jonestown, then losing your husband while pregnant in a car accident. Give me a break, right? Raising us as a single,
Really?
I mean, seriously. I mean, you know, what if it's God who's up there, you're going, what the heck? You know, you didn't hit me enough.
What did I do
What did I do wrong? That's it. And that's the thing that's so interesting to me because that is, I think, a lot of people's first reaction. What did I do wrong? And you seem to have turned that into, well, how do I make it right?
That's true.
Yeah.
I actually, when my husband was killed, I couldn't have been at a worse time. I was so low, and my father had come to visit me because I was at bed rest because of the high-risk pregnancy. And I said, Dad, I don't know if I can go on. And he said, Jackie, what's wrong with you? Get over it. It's been 3 months. And it's so jarring. I thought, oh, my God, I wouldn't talk to him for weeks. But I had to get over it. I had to move on. I had a 5.5-year-old and a baby on the way, and I had to somehow move forward. And so this book is about resilience. It's about how you can take something that gives you lemons and make lemonade out of it. And you know what? We can do it over and over and over again.
I like your mother. I have a crush on your father. Okay, that's it. Good-looking man he was. You're a thoughtful person, clearly. But I'm curious about something else, and that's emotions. And this is going to take us into the rest of this interview. You've achieved so much from such an early age, but what is the emotion that compels you? We as women, we're not supposed to talk about our emotions. I think you've been so successful as a Congresswoman because I think you wear your emotions sometimes on your sleeve. That makes a big difference. Yeah. Right? Talk to me about that.
Well, it's because I don't know any better. I think it's because I can't be coy and I can't be clever, although sometimes I try to be.
No, we all.
But it all happens in my gut. I talk about this outrage meter that I carry around with me, and if it reaches a certain point, I have to do something about it. It's what keeps me going. It's what it's my soul. Because I think I was so lucky to survive, and I think I owe so much to the body politic, to people in general. And so when I see unfairness, when I see inequality, when I see discrimination, I feel compelled to do something about it.
And I'm going to say this metaphorically as well as literally. Those who are the messengers, which is who you and what you've become, they always want to shoot the messenger. I get that totally, right? And I saw a metaphor in that through your whole story, by the way. And I congratulate you for being able to go through that. So you wanted to make a difference. Your calling was to make a difference. Gun control. I got to go there with you. We can't crack this one. Mm-hmm. And now it's you.
Oh, yes, we can.
And Gabby, we haven't yet, though.
We will.
We will. I know you're positive. That's great. But we've got Gabby and we've got Steve Scalise on the other side, and you. And there are others, by the way, in Congress who've been disabled by gunshots. What's the deal here? What do we have to do?
Well, I will say that I believe that the National Rifle Association has lost some of its power. I mean, 23 of the candidates that it supported in the last election lost. There is growing, I think, appeal to the youth of this country who recognize that, it's not right. They shouldn't be fearful going to school. They shouldn't be required to do active shooter drills instead of fire drills. And yet that's what's happened. We have smart technology now that can make sure that a gun is not discharged unless it's by the owner of the gun. Why do more children die of accidental gunshot wounds than law enforcement officers in the line of duty? We have a bill of goods that has been piled on by the NRA that is not accurate. You are protected to keep your gun by the Second Amendment, but you have a responsibility to make sure it's safe and can't get in the hands of someone else. And if you're a felon or you're a domestic violence misdemeanor or you've been judged to be mentally defective, you can't own a gun in this country. And yet, because of Internet purchases and gun show purchases, people get away with it. So we're going to clean that up this year.
I am so happy to hear that. And the good news is the NRA's lost a lot of money. I mean, I don't know how accurate reporting is, but you're losing a lot of money. No money, maybe no power. No power, goodbye and good luck. I really want to see this one cleaned up and fixed once and for all. I live in Florida. What a nightmare we have here on that subject. 116th Congress, let me change. A record number of women. 126, I think.
That's right.
Right?
And you know what's great about this, Halli, is the fact that there are 34 new women, 33 are Democrats, 22 of them have never run for public office before.
That's exciting.
So there's an avenue for anyone, male or female, who wants to run for office but doesn't feel that they've gone through the process. There is no process anymore. If you have the fire in the belly, if you can communicate your views to people and they are convinced by it, if you are authentic, you can run and you can be successful.
So are you encouraged that it's only 23.6%? How do you like that mixed one there? Are you?
Well, it's a whole lot better than 19%.
Or
those
17,
numbers are going to increase.
Right.
And I was just reading today that the top, the companies in this country that are part of the military-industrial complex, all of these countries, Lockheed, Boeing, all of them are now headed by women. So we are coming of age on so many levels that it's very exciting to see what's going to happen.
There's something interesting, though, when I was thinking about talking to you, and I knew that I wanted to talk to you about the Me Too movement, which you've been so much in the forefront of. But you know what I really want to talk to you about, because I think everybody kind of gets that story, and that's the fact that it's female members of Congress who are talking about this, number one. And I'm going to talk to you about women's issues. And is that sexist? Does it get to a point where we have to say, you know what? Congresswoman Speier also serves on the Committee on Armed Services. Oh my gosh. And on the Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. And yet, I want to go back to you on the women's movement. Do you get that irony?
So here's two things. First, my wingman on the Me Too Congress Act was not a woman. It was Bradley Byrne, a conservative Republican from Alabama. Who would have thunk? But together, we were able to push that legislation through. He, in particular, had the kind of currency in his Republican caucus because he's an employment law lawyer, and he knows of what he speaks, and he did it in the private sector for so many years. So it's not just women. In this case, it really was Bradley Byrne and Jackie Speier. Secondly, when I first got elected to the state legislature, my campaign consultant at the time says, you can't keep doing women's issues. You gotta spread out. And I thought, well, okay, I would start doing that. Then I thought, wait a minute. If I don't do it, who's going to do it? What man is going to be concerned that contraceptives are covered on a prescription drug benefit? What man is going to want to make sure that you can get orders for stay-away orders on the weekend when courts are not open? So whatever the issue is, what man is going to be concerned about child support enforcement? It's something that I had an obligation to be engaged in because it dealt with women and children.
It's still boys' town out there, isn't it, though? And we're still fighting that. And because of people like you, I think we'll actually have a chance to make it something different, something much better than it has been. That's for sure. Are you excited about the new Congress?
I certainly am.
And what do you see as, for you, the number one thing? And by the way, are you going to run for president? Is that what this book is about? Let me throw that out.
No, it's not. A number of people ask me that. No, I'm not running for president, although...
Why not?
There's so many, I guess,
I mean, why not, darling? I mean, you as well as anybody. And I think you actually have a better face than most, so there you go. You could do it. But what do you think is the number one issue for you going forward now?
So it's not just one issue. I would say the Equal Rights Amendment needs to be enshrined in the Constitution. Mm-hmm. It is not, and so discrimination based on sex is still technically legal in this country. If you've been discriminated against, not only do you have to show you were discriminated against, you have to show that it was intentional. I'm also concerned in the military about a doctrine called the Ferris Doctrine. It was a decision in the 1940s that basically said a service member incidental to their service cannot sue the federal government. So we've had many service members who were victims of malpractice, victims of sexual assault, all of whom have not been able to find justice, and I want to see that change.
I leave you on this. This is a book about survival. Do we survive Donald Trump?
Without a doubt, we survived Donald Trump. Our country is great, and our country has survived bad leadership before, and we will do it again. What's great about this new Congress is that there's now a check on executive power, which Congress in the last 2 years has abrogated its responsibilities to put a check on the executive. Our forefathers designed this country with 3 equal branches of government, with checks and balances, so that we would not have a king, we would not have an autocrat, and so we are more assured of not having that moving forward.
You are a gift to us all. Thank you so much.
Great to be with you, Halli.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye now.
I've been speaking with Congresswoman Jackie Speier. She has written a remarkable new book, Undaunted, Surviving Jonestown, Summoning Courage, and Fighting Back. For more information and to connect with Congresswoman Speier, visit her website at JackieSpeier.org and follow her on Twitter, where her handle is Jackie Speier. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show. The Halli Casser-Jayne Show is a production of RESEC, LLC. Be sure to tune in to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show at HalliCasserJayne.com or listen on your favorite app. New podcasts are posted Wednesdays, 3 p.m. Eastern.